June in Pakistan is known for its hot summer and the budget. The only question in the town in the June is how will the budget look like? This time there is an added angle. How will the budget look like with or without IMF? I think one thing clear that on the very onset is that this budget will be an election budget. Though the context has some sort of changed, the element of the election years. It will not be that inflationary, expansionary as it was considered to be without IMF. Because there is growing recognition that any government that comes in power has to go to IMF for the 24th program. So I think the government will try to keep IMF engaged. So in this context, the reforms that has been being taken by the government, they will be continuing in this budget. So the question to me, with or without IMF, the answer is that government will prioritize to go with IMF instead of going without IMF. And the advice is also the same, that government should go with IMF. And I think this is not that difficult as it is perceived to be. Because if we see right now, the biggest contention between the government of Pakistan and the IMF, which is delaying this staff level agreement, is actually external financing gap. Much of on domestic fronts has been done. So I think if government can continue the mini budget of February in 2022 and some positive signals, I think the IMF will be okay with the budget with slight sort of the kind of reliefs for the people. And I think given IMF does understand that given a very high level of inflation, people of Pakistan need some relief measures. So this is where I think the government will try to build on, such as BIS program may be expanded, it may be more allocations being allocated, agriculture sort of relief package, as Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has also hinted on, a direct relief to farmers. I think again similarly the green energy area, the concessions on the green energy area, that will also be on the board, and I think IMF will have no objection on it. Similarly, I think on the taxing side, the government will be sort of looking onto the banking sector, the real estate sector. I think I don't see much more tax on agriculture at this point of time. Because it is the election year, so no government will sort of try to annoy its vote base. So in this context, overall, I think this budget will be a balance between a fully IMF budget or a fully election budget. And I think this is the right approach that government should take. But keeping this in mind, that it has to find all the avenues to support, to provide relief to the public at large in Pakistan, which is really struggling on both ends. On the one end, it is having low livelihoods opportunities, job losses, loss of income, and at the same time, 38% inflation in last month is really testing the purchasing power of people. So both IMF and government should understand that they need support. But at the same time, one message for the IMF as well, that right now the external financing gap, which is really delaying this staff level agreement, is much more dependent on the signal from IMF. The bilateral philanthropy countries, those who have been over the 70 years giving us without IMF as an alternate to IMF, are now looking towards IMF. They want to be the partner of IMF in putting up Pakistan's economic reform agenda. So I think IMF should go ahead. It should also proceed forward this positive signal. So just to conclude, this will be a balanced sort of budget, neither a purely IMF budget nor an election budget.